Missing just a few of the best days in the stock market could seriously reduce what you earn over time.
Some of those best days happen in some of the worst headlines, which makes time in the markets pretty difficult for most people.
Staying invested over time may really matter, especially depending on your situation and how emotions can affect those decisions.
So here in a few minutes, we're going to talk about how to deal with difficult markets. But first, let's talk about the concept of what market timing is.
Most people have heard the phrase buy low and sell high, and it refers to when to invest your money into the stock market and when to pull your money out of those investments.
In a perfect world, that makes sense because everyone wants to maximize the profit that they're going to make on their investment. But the markets tend to overreact in either direction based on fear and greed in the intermediate term. And so the truth is, most people just aren't really good at that.
Fear of losing money and greed for gaining money, those are really powerful influencers. When the markets are going up in general, you're really not worried about losses too much.
Yeah, I mean, we run into it more often you'd think here. A couple years back, I can't remember exactly when it was, but there was a couple years back, I had a client, had some company stock that he retired with and had it in a brokerage account, kept a piece of it. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But the stock was Exxon stock. And Exxon tends to, even though not everything stays the same always, but the pattern of it has been that Exxon stays in this kind of range between, I'm rounding, about $80 to say 100, kind of in that range. And it'll do that for depending on how the oil market's doing and things like this. Well, in this particular point, Exxon broke out above that range. Right. And so he was like, hey, if it gets to 120, I want to sell it. A couple of months before then, because it broke out of the range. And we just wanted to have the conversation so we knew, okay, what's the action that needs to be done? So it gets to about 118 during the summer period. I give him a call and I say, hey, it's getting close. And had the conversation about it's at 118. Do you still want to sell at 120? Do you want to trim some now? That kind of thing. He says, well, I think it's going to go a lot higher than 120 now. So originally his gut was saying 120 is fine. That's what I'd love to make on this. But now that it's almost there, he's, oh my goodness, I can get more. That greed, for lack of a better word, just starts setting in. And then all of a sudden what was okay before, it's not okay now. And so I said, well, look, originally you said 120. Let's go ahead and at least trim some of it if it gets close to 120. Take a third of it, sell it then. And if you think it's going to go higher, you can tell me later on when it's going to go up some more. And he agreed to that. We sold a third of it at 120. It was like 120 and 25 cents, somewhere around there. Guess where it went after that? Woo, straight down. Now, back to the normal range of where it was before, and he didn't sell it all. So, to your point, fear and greed, it pushes us in the wrong direction a lot of the time.
Yeah, emotions, they can be the greatest enemy of sound decisions. What do the stats say about market timing?
The scoreboard's not real good for investors. There was a study that I followed that went through the period of about 1990 to 2017. A lot of bad stuff happened in that period.
Right.
You had a recession in 1990. I think there was another recession somewhere in mid-1990. You had the tech bubble burst in 1999. Then you had 2008. Also within that roughly, 28, 30-year period of time, you had the lost decade of investing. That's that period of time between 1999 and 2009 because of all that bad stuff that happened in there, where the S&P 500 was actually negative over that whole decade. Now, the S&P over that entire time frame, so roughly 30 years, averages about 10%. So if you put the money in at the beginning and just left it alone, you'd average 10%. But there's roughly about 7,000 days,
Right.
a little over that in this period. During that 7,000 days, had you stayed invested, you made 10%. That's pretty good. If you just missed the 10 best days out of roughly over 7,000 days, if you just missed the 10 best, your percentage average return drops like 3%. It's like 7% over that time frame. Now, if you just missed 100 of the best days over that 28-year period, you're negative 5% almost. 100 days out of 7,000. So my big joke is, if you can do that, if you can predict those days before they happen, I'm going to give you a job application because we're going to be rich.
Right.
But it's just not practical. Most people aren't going to be able to predict it because here's the thing. Some of those best days happen in some of the worst years. That's what we see. So here's a few dates for you. During the Great Recession, October 13th, 2008. The S&P 500 jumped 11% in one day.
Wow.
In the Great Recession. That's not even anywhere near the bottom. The bottom was in like March 9th or something like that, right? But one of the best days during one of the worst periods ever. If you missed it, there's one of your 10. During the recent bear market, 2022, one of the best days during that period, during the bear market, was November 10th, 2022. 5.5% in a day. There were people that were still convinced the whole following year that we weren't out of the bear market yet. So if people go off their feeling, like how I feel about the moment, most people don't feel real good during those times. But those are the times when you have to be invested in order to capture that upside.
Right. Besides having a solid sounding board of a financial advisor, what are some things that could be done?
So one of the things that we talk a lot about is having a method to deal with our emotions.
Right.
So stop, take a deep breath, let all those chemicals that happen during those time frames settle down in your body before you make a decision about something. So stop, breathe, and think. Reflect back on your core values and your goals. We actually have another video on this. We'll link that in the description. But understanding what your core values and your goals are so that you can make a better decision. Ask yourself, am I going to need this money anytime soon? If you're not going to be taking it all out, why can't you wait for it to recover, right? So don't think it's an all or nothing type situation where I have to get it all out or I have to put it all in at any given time. Then ultimately, is this decision to buy or sell going to help or hinder my goals? If I'm going to sell, let there be a purpose. It can't be, I'm worried. I'm worried about what's going to happen next. It needs to be, I'm selling because I need this money. I was planning on having this money for this date at this time, and therefore I'm going to sell it. Better way to do that if you have a plan in place to begin with to do that beforehand, but that should be the driver of the decision, not the fear or greed.
So from the beginning, we need to make sure that our investments actually match our goals rather than reacting to market being up, market being down.
Yeah.
And we also need to ask ourselves from the beginning, when do I think I'm going to need to access these funds?
And probably get that money out at a better time.
Right.
Also, see this behavior of I want to get aggressive, I want to get conservative, I want to get aggressive, I want to get like completely changing the chemistry of their portfolio based on how they feel about politics in the moment, how they feel about the economy, things like this. Truth is that you should just really have the portfolio built the way it needs to be from the get-go.
Right, because being aggressive or conservative probably has more to do with your time horizon than it does the ups and the downs of the market.
Right. I mean, if there's an expected behavior that the portfolio is going to go through, you have to understand that expected behavior. If you don't want it to go down as much, also not going to go up as much in the exciting times. But over time, that's a lot more predictable Probably easier to plan for goals. Probably not going to be down as much when you need the money and things of this nature. That's a better place to be.
Right.
Having a longer, to your point, time horizon, not just with when you need the money, but also your expectations around how the investment should behave. So what do I mean by that? These averages, like when you say I want a 6 or an 8% average or something like that, we all know we don't get those every year.
Right.
Sometimes they're higher, sometimes, and that's the average. But even the averages themselves, they breathe over time. If you go through a nasty bear market, I wouldn't even call 2022 nasty. It was a bear market, but they've been worse than that. It was pretty mild. But when you go through those periods, you're down for a long period of time. So you're putting those couple of years, 18 months to 4 years, you're putting that into the average numbers. And depending on what period of time, if you're looking at 5 years and there's 4 years of bad in there, guess what happens to your average? It shrinks. And then whenever good times come in and say you have a really robust, like we did before the pandemic, 10, 15 years before the S&P was killing it, right? It's pretty easy to make money then. But you had the money in there and averages ballooned out because you had so many years of positive returns in a row. But over like a 20-year period of time, you can see that average really coming to view. So the expectation shouldn't be, hey, I'm going to invest this money, and if I don't see 6%, 8%, whatever you're targeting after a year or 6 months or something like that, probably a false sense of security in that. Really takes like 3 to 5 years for those averages to even come into view.
Right.
So you have to give it time.
So we probably shouldn't be investing money that we have earmarked to spend within the next 1 to 2 years. We advise people to have maybe 6 months while they're working, 3 to 6 months of emergency savings that's in cash so that they can access that. An air conditioner goes out in the house, the car needs new tires, and you don't want to be stuck in a position where when the AC goes out in your house in Southeast Texas, all of your money is tied up in the stock market because the stock market doesn't care if the AC goes out.
Or hurricanes don't care when the stock market's down.
And then you've got a $20,000, $30,000 roof replacement that you've got to meet. And if all your money is tied up in the stock market and you're trying to time it, what if that hurricane hits during a low?
Yeah, or if you go through a circumstance like that, what's that going to do to your psyche going forward as an investor? Then you're always nervous that's going to happen again.
Right.
And so then you don't put the appropriate portfolio into place, and that can really hurt you, especially if you're in retirement trying to keep up with inflation or something like that, and then you don't have the appropriate amount invested in the types of assets that are going to grow to keep up. You can run out of money.
This really illustrates the point of needing a secure savings account, an emergency savings account. Then whenever the emotions get high and you're looking at the stock market and you're thinking, oh man, I need to time this, I need to get out. But we've got an emergency fund. We don't need to touch that money. Let's let the market correct itself. Let's wait for a better time. There's going to be a better time.
And you can replace that money that you used in your emergency fund that you needed at that point when the market's down. You can then replenish that either through your money in the markets once the markets are back up, or through your cash flows, through your monthly income. And again, it's one of those all or nothing mentalities a lot of folks have. It's like it either all needs to be safe or all not. You can have buckets that deal with different things. That's part of a overall plan.
Right.
Most people are just not that good at timing markets. Keep in mind that if you're invested correctly, staying invested over time can be way more beneficial.
Don't get caught in the trap and allow your emotions to rule your life. Want to learn how to invest with confidence through every market cycle? See our additional content for smarter investing.